Crash! The sound of twisting metal and splintering wood yanked me out of a dead sleep at 6 a.m. My heart pounded as I stumbled to the window, half expecting to see a car wreck. Instead, I saw my mailbox, or what was left of it, smashed flat, like a soda can under a tire. Tire marks snaked across my lawn, leading straight to the driveway of my neighbor, Karen, the HOA president with a power trip bigger than her oversized SUV. This wasn't a one-time hit and run. This was the third time in 2 months my perfectly regulation mailbox had been obliterated, and every time Karen's gleaming white Suburban was parked nearby, sporting fresh scratches on its bumper. Coincidence? Not a chance. I'm Jake, a 30-year-old graphic designer who moved to this cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood in hopes of a quiet life. I'd traded city chaos for what I thought would be peace, a place to focus on my freelance work and maybe plant a garden. Instead, I got Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of shady pines, a woman who treated our cul-de-sac like her personal kingdom. Karen was in her late 40s, with a bleach blonde bob and a permanent scowl, always clutching a clipboard like it was a scepter. She'd knock on doors to lecture about unapproved trash cans or leave passive-aggressive notes on my windshield for parking an inch over the line. Once, she fined me $50 because my grass was 0.2 inches too long. But this mailbox thing? It felt personal, like she was targeting me for daring to exist in her domain. The first time it happened, I chalked it up to an accident. Maybe a delivery driver misjudged the turn. I shelled out $75 for a new mailbox, installed it myself, and moved on. 2 weeks later, bam, another hit. That one cost me $100 because I upgraded to a sturdier model, hoping it'd withstand whatever was happening. Now, staring at the third pile of wreckage, I was out $175, and my patience was gone. I'd followed every HOA rule to the letter. Beige mailbox, 42 inches off the ground, no decorations. Yet here I was, sweeping up shards of my life's savings, while Karen's SUV sat smugly in her driveway, its front bumper glinting with a telltale dent. I stormed outside in my pajamas, the morning dew soaking my slippers, and inspected the damage. The tire marks were fresh, the grass torn up like someone had peeled out in a hurry. I glanced at Karen's house, half expecting her to be watching from behind her curtains, smirking. Her blinds were shut, but I could feel her presence, like a hawk circling prey. Neighbors started peeking out, drawn by the noise. Old Mr. Thompson, from across the street, shuffled over, shaking his head. "Karen again?" he muttered. "She's been at it for years. Knocked over my bird bath last spring, claimed it was kids." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about me. Karen had a pattern, a vendetta against anything or anyone who didn't bow to her HOA rulebook. I'd heard whispers at the neighborhood barbecue, stories of her accidents targeting non-compliant property. A bent fence here, a trampled flower bed there. She was a one-woman demolition crew, hiding behind her title and a fake smile. But I wasn't about to let her keep running over my life. I clenched my fists, staring at the wreckage, and made a vow. Karen wanted a war. I'd give her one she'd never forget. I needed proof to take down Karen. She was slippery, always dodging blame with a fake smile and excuses like, "Oh, maybe it was a delivery truck," or "Kids these days so reckless." I wasn't buying it. If I was going to expose her, I needed ironclad evidence, something the HOA board couldn't ignore. So I ordered a $40 security camera from Amazon, a small black dome with night vision and crisp 1080p resolution. I spent an evening mounting it on my porch, angling it to capture the mailbox perfectly. Every night I'd check the footage, expecting to catch her in the act. For a week, it was just squirrels, joggers, and the occasional stray cat. I started to wonder if I was paranoid. Then, on a foggy Tuesday morning, I hit the jackpot. I was sipping coffee, scrolling through the camera app, when I saw it. Karen's white SUV, unmistakable with its HOA president sticker, swerved off the road at 5:47 a.m. The footage was crystal clear. She plowed into my mailbox, the metal crumpling like paper, and sped off without a glance. My jaw dropped. I rewatched it 5 times, zooming in on her license plate, her smug expression barely visible through the windshield. I had her, but I knew confronting Karen directly would backfire. She'd twist the story, maybe even cry to the HOA board about being harassed. Instead, I decided to test the waters. I uploaded the clip anonymously to our neighborhood's online forum, blurring her plate just enough to avoid legal trouble. My post was simple. Anyone know who keeps hitting my mailbox? 3rd time this year. The responses flooded in within hours. Mrs. Lopez from down the street commented, "Looks like Karen's SUV. She backed into my rose bushes last summer and blamed my dog." Tom, the guy with the vintage Mustang, chimed in, "She dented my garbage cans and said it was wind." Total nonsense. Even shy Mrs. Patel shared a story about her kid's basketball hoop, mysteriously crushed after Karen deemed it an eyesore. The forum exploded with Karen horror stories, painting a picture of a serial property destroyer hiding behind her. HOA title. I felt a surge of validation. This wasn't just about me. But I also felt the stakes rising. Karen wasn't just a nuisance. She was a bully with power. I printed out screenshots of the forum posts, saved the video to a USB drive, and marched to the HOA board meeting that Thursday. I presented my case calmly, showing the footage and my repair receipts. Karen was there, arms crossed, smirking like she was untouchable. The board, her loyal minions, watched the video in silence. Then, to my shock, they dismissed it. "Insufficient evidence," the chairman said, avoiding my eyes. "Could be. Anyone's SUV." I was livid. Karen's influence was deeper than I thought. I left the meeting fuming, but determined. If the board wouldn't act, I'd make sure Karen's next accident was her last. This was no longer just about a mailbox. It was about justice for everyone she'd terrorized. If Karen thought she could keep destroying my mailbox with no consequences, she was about to meet her match. I wasn't just going to replace it again. I was going to build something she couldn't touch, something that would turn her reckless accidents against her. But I had to be clever. Karen was the HOA president, and any new mailbox had to pass her strict beige-tinted rulebook, or she'd slap me with fines faster than you can say regulation violation. I needed a plan that was equal parts sneaky and indestructible. Started by diving into the wild world of online forums, spending late nights on my laptop with a bowl of popcorn, scrolling through Reddit threads and obscure homesteading blogs. I found stories of homeowners battling similar mailbox vandals, people using concrete-filled posts, steel boxes designed for rural highways, even one guy who turned an old fire hydrant into a mailbox that survived a tractor collision. The ideas were inspiring, but I needed something that screamed HOA compliant on the outside while being a fortress underneath. I wasn't an engineer, but I'm a graphic designer. I know how to make things look good while hiding a punch. I called my buddy Mike, a contractor who'd helped me install shelves in my garage when I moved in. Mike was the kind of guy who could build a shed in a weekend and still have time to grill burgers. I met him at a local coffee shop, spreading out my laptop and a sketch pad full of half-baked mailbox designs. "Mike, I need a mailbox that can take a hit from Karen's SUV and laugh in her face," I said, showing him the forum posts and my crumpled mailbox photos. Mike grinned, his eyes lighting up like a kid handed a new Lego set. "Oh, we're gonna make her regret this," he said, cracking his knuckles. We spent hours brainstorming. Mike suggested a heavy-duty steel mailbox, the kind used on high-traffic roads where semi-trucks whip by at 60 mph. I found one online for $120. Pricey, but worth it if it meant stopping Karen. The real magic, though, was the installation. Mike proposed digging a 3-foot hole and filling it with concrete to anchor a thick steel pole. "This thing'll be like Excalibur," he said. "No one's pulling it out." We'd bolt the mailbox to the pole with industrial-grade hardware, making it a single, unyielding unit. To keep Karen off my back, we'd paint it the HOA's mandatory beige and ensure it met every height and placement rule in her precious handbook. The next weekend, we got to work. My front yard became a construction site, with Mike hauling bags of concrete mix and me wielding a shovel like I knew what I was doing. My neighbor, old Mr. Thompson, wandered over, leaning on his cane. "You building a bunker for that mailbox?" "Son," he chuckled. I winked and said, "Something like that." We poured the concrete, set the pole, and mounted the mailbox, double-checking every bolt. By Sunday evening, it was done. A deceptively normal-looking mailbox I nicknamed the Tank. It blended in perfectly, but it could probably stop a tank, literally. Mike slapped me on the back. "Let's see Karen mess with this one." I went to bed that night buzzing with anticipation. The tank was ready, and so was I. Karen's next move was going to be her last. 2 weeks later, I was sipping coffee when, crash! My heart raced, but this time I wasn't worried. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app, a grin spreading across my face. The footage was pure gold. Karen's white SUV with its smug HOA President sticker veered off the road at 6:12 a.m., slamming into the tank with a sickening crunch. The mailbox didn't even flinch, not a dent, not a scratch. But Karen's SUV? Her front bumper was crumpled like tinfoil, hanging off at an awkward angle. I zoomed in, catching every detail. The sparks as metal met metal, the jolt of her car, as it recoiled. It was better than any action movie. Karen flung open her door and stormed out, her face redder than a stop sign. She circled the tank, jabbing at it with her finger like it had personally insulted her. She even kicked it, only to yelp and hop back, clutching her foot. I stifled a laugh. She'd met her match, and she knew it. She glanced around, probably checking for witnesses, then hobbled back to her car and peeled out, leaving rubber marks on the street. The camera caught it all, down to her furious expression. I saved the footage, burned it to a USB drive, and started planning my next move. This wasn't just about a mailbox anymore. It was about justice. I didn't rush to the HOA board right away. I wanted to savor this, to make sure Karen felt the sting. First, I called Mike, who howled with laughter when I sent him the clip. "Told you the tank was unstoppable," he said. I also showed the footage to Mr. Thompson, my neighbor, who clapped me on the shoulder. "You're doing the Lord's." "Work, kid," he said, eyes twinkling. Word spread quietly among the neighbors, and soon, a few others who'd been burned by Karen were texting me, begging to see the video. I kept it under wraps. I didn't want Karen tipped off before the, big showdown. The next HOA meeting was a week later, and I was ready. I walked in with a folder containing my repair receipts for the previous mailboxes, $175 total, a USB with the footage, and a polite but firm letter demanding compensation and action against Karen. The boardroom was tense, with Karen sitting at the head of the table, her usual smirk in place. I started by recounting the 3 mailbox incidents, showing photos of the damage and the tire marks. Then, I plugged in my laptop and played the video on a projector. The room went silent as Karen's SUV obliterated my old mailbox in the first clip, then crashed into the tank in the second. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the board members. Karen's face went from smug to pale, her eyes darting like a trapped animal. She tried to spin it, of course. "It was dark. I didn't see it," she stammered, her voice shrill. "This is entrapment." I stayed calm, pointing out that the footage showed clear daylight and her reckless driving. The neighbors in attendance, Mrs. Lopez, Tom, even shy Mrs. Patel, backed me up, sharing their own stories of Karen's accidents. The board couldn't ignore the pressure. After a heated debate, they ruled in my favor. Karen had to pay $175 for my replacements and a $500 fine for reckless driving in the neighborhood. She stormed out, muttering about ungrateful residents, but the cheers from the crowd drowned her out. The dust settled, and the tank stood tall, a gleaming symbol of victory in my front yard. Karen, once the untouchable queen of Shady Pines, had been dethroned, at least in my corner of the neighborhood. After the HOA meeting, she stopped patrolling my street, her SUV no longer lurking like a shark circling prey. Her absence was a relief, like a storm cloud finally drifting away. But the real win wasn't just silencing Karen. It was the ripple effect that changed our community and taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Word spread fast. By the next morning, my phone was buzzing with texts from neighbors who'd heard about the HOA showdown. Mrs. Lopez, whose rose bushes Karen had accidentally flattened, sent me a plate of homemade tamales with a note. "You're our hero." Jake! Tom, the Mustang guy, stopped by to high-five me, joking that he was tempted to build his own tank for his trash cans. Even shy Mrs. Patel, who rarely spoke at meetings, slipped a thank you card under my door, saying her kids felt safer playing outside now that Karen wasn't on the prowl. I hadn't realized how much her reign of terror had weighed on everyone until I saw the neighborhood come alive again. The online forum became a battlefield of memes and celebration. Someone posted a photoshopped image of the tank with a superhero cape, captioned, "Karen's Kryptonite." Another neighbor made a gif of Karen's SUV bouncing off the mailbox, looping endlessly to the tune of cartoon Boeing sounds. I couldn't stop laughing. I decided to lean into it, sharing a detailed blueprint of the tank, complete with product links and installation tips, on the forum. Within days, 3 neighbors ordered their own steel mailboxes, and Mike got a call from Mr. Thompson to fortify his bird bath. "You started a revolution, man," Mike said, grinning over beers at my place. I hadn't set out to be a rebel, but it felt good to inspire others to stand up. Karen didn't go quietly, of course. A week after the ruling, she posted a long, rambling message on the forum, claiming she was misunderstood and only trying to maintain property values. She even hinted at running for HOA president again next year. The comments tore her apart. Neighbors weren't afraid anymore. Someone replied, "Maintain property values by fixing your bumper first," with a winking emoji. I heard through the grapevine that her SUV was in the shop for $2,000 in repairs, a price tag that stung worse than the fine. She'd learned her lesson the hard way. Don't mess with the tank. Reflecting on it all, I realized this wasn't just about a mailbox. It was about standing up to a bully who'd made our lives miserable for too long. I could have kept replacing mailboxes, grumbling under my breath, but fighting back gave me, and my neighbors, a sense of power we didn't know we had. I learned to document everything, stay calm under pressure, and get creative when the odds seem stacked against you. Karen might have had the HOA rulebook, but I had the tank and a community that finally found its voice. If you're dealing with your own HOA nightmare, or any bully really, here's my advice. Don't back down. Gather evidence, rally your allies, and think outside the box. Sometimes the best revenge is a mailbox that fights back. The tank still stands, untouched, a daily reminder that even the smallest victories can change everything. So hit that like button if you've ever outsmarted a Karen, and smash that subscribe for more stories about beating the neighborhood tyrants. Drop a comment below. What's the pettiest thing your HOA has done? Or tell me about your own epic revenge story. Let's keep this community strong just like my mailbox. Until next time, stay bold, stay creative, and keep your lawns just a little too long to drive the Karens wild.